Thanks for listening to the Sleep Experience podcast. We'll see you next time on next week's episode. Be sure to subscribe and follow us to get future updates on everything sleep, energy, focus, stress, and better performance.
Awesome, yeah.
Welcome to the Sleep Experience podcast, where we take a deep dive into the latest sleep hacks, gadgets, and strategies to skyrocket your productivity to new heights. Being a high performer is all about resting at 100%, so you can execute at 100%.
Side effects of medication, they weren't doing anything for me, so I felt like my back was up against the wall.
Hey, this is Riley, host of the Sleep for Side Hustlers podcast. At Sleep for Side Hustlers, we interview health experts and teach our community how upgrading their sleep is the one thing that they need to unlock their biological code and maximize their performance in an effortless way by doing more with less. Do you want to become a productivity machine, have genius ideas automatically pop into your mind, stop feeling so stressed, build better relationships, and generate more income? Optimizing your deep sleep can do just that. Visit www.thesleepconsultant.com to learn more. My guest today is Ryan Hindmarsh. Ryan is the former Chief Executive Officer of Sleep Therapeutics, a Canadian organization that helps people transition from a life affected by debilitating sleep apnea and other sleep disorders to a healthy life of happiness and success using scientifically proven sleep diagnostics and treatments. As a mission-driven problem solver, as a fitness coach for NHL hockey players, to co-founding and managing some of Toronto's top sports clinics and fitness facilities, Ryan has deep insights into better physical and mental performance. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Cool, Riley. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure to have you on, a fellow Canadian. A lot of the people I talk to, majority from the USA, so it's really cool to also meet people in the sleep space who are also Canadian. So I'm really excited to dive in today. But first, I'm really curious to you, and one thing I like to ask my guests always is what was sort of your origin story into this whole entrepreneurial thing specific to health? It seems like it's always been your passion, but when did you kind of start making that into a business?
For like the entrepreneurial spirit, I think has always been alive in me. I think from way back when my buddy and I started a fitness company in university where we were training NHL players and Olympians and junior hockey players, and I think the only thing that our company ever did was sell T-shirts, which were super cool. But
Nice.
it was really it was a kind of a neat foray into entrepreneurship and how to kind of start a business and help people essentially. And I think that's always been my mandate, is how can I help people, almost like the introduction to your podcast is how can I help people be better performers, better people, healthier. So yeah, kind of always been an entrepreneur and always looked for kind of what's next. But it's always been health related, every business that I've been in.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then, when you started working with hockey players and things like that, I mean, that's really taking high performance to the next level. So I'm sure you dealt with all kinds of, because those guys, opposed to somebody who's, debilitating sleep apnea, like you were doing more sort of recently, I guess that's really more optimization and kind of finding the peak recovery, injury prevention, stuff like that.
Exactly. And I think we spent most of the time with those guys in the off season. And it was almost like gaining that little extra level of strength and fitness and recovery before they walked into the training camps. And actually we did deal with a lot of players who were just kind of going out to their first training camp, and we knew kind of obviously specifically the tests that they would be doing, and would train them specifically for those events. But it was a unique time. Like, I'm dating myself now, but probably 30 years ago when like bench press and squats and all those things were like the only thing that everybody was doing. And we followed Twist Conditioning out of Vancouver, and he's still operational this time. He worked with the Canucks at that point, but it was like, then we introduced like BOSUs and sled pulling and medicine ball tosses and doing bench press on a medicine, on a ball, right? Like on a Swiss ball. And it was, the athletes were all blown away. They thought it was kind of hokey at the time. But it was neat when they would come back after the season, go, I can battle in the corner a little bit better because I'm not at a fixed bench all the time. So it was kind of fascinating to see how it went.
I could imagine. Yeah. Times have come a long way sort of since then. We take all this stuff for granted, like, oh, the BOSU balls, the medicine balls, all these other things have always been around. But Yeah, times have definitely evolved, especially with all that stuff. And yeah, if you're just doing bench press and some of these other things, you'd be lots of muscle, but pretty stiff for sure. So then fast
Yes.
forward, more recently to the sleep therapeutics. What were you doing? Who were you helping? And what were sort of some of the results you saw in the clients?
Yeah, for sure. So we had 23 clinics across the country, and
Wow.
primary, we were a CPAP supplier, although we had other CPAP machines, and we kind of worked on the clinic basis. So we would do an overnight at-home sleep study, and then kind of a results-based. Here's kind of what we need or we're thinking from a prescription-based with consultation from their doctor and our, but primarily, yeah, there was. I think everybody who came to us from help or from a referral from a doctor or just walked off the street had some level of discomfort from sleeping, right? And mainly it was the partner or the bed partner kind of blowing the whistle, going, you're holding your breath at night, or you're snoring, or and normally it was the sleeper who was like, nah, I sleep fine, I'm good. So it was pretty unique to have these people in, and man, you could see these people. There were so many stories from like severe sleep apnea people who would walk in the door almost dead, like crawling in the door, like on their last breath, and within a week on CPAP machine changed their life, like totally transformed their life. And I drank the Kool-Aid about 15 years ago. I don't know how most people put up with me, but I was a snorer myself, and a sleep apnea survivor, I call it. And it changed my life way back when too. It wasn't an immediate effect, but I was like, oh, you're not supposed to be tired in the middle of the day all the time and be not productive. So really had a passion for helping people sleep. And I think part of the thing with CPAP machines, I think from a CPAP or a sleep apnea thing, is people like just getting past that stigma of, I don't want to be hooked up to a hose all night.
Yeah.
And I dealt with that problem myself too, right? But I think for sure the treatment or how it all works, the benefits majorly outweigh the mass you have to have attached to yourself all the time. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds like it's pretty impactful stuff. And people don't realize, like, one is, I think a lot of sleep apnea is undiagnosed. And like you said, you have a whistleblower, you have a partner with you, can actually tell you what's going on. Like, I don't think that is normal. And part two is sleep apnea. I didn't realize until just a few years ago, even though I've been in this journey for a while, just how debilitating sleep apnea can be, just like in terms of energy, like disease risk down the road, like diabetes, heart disease, things like this, because when you don't get enough oxygen into and just sufficient sleep with deep sleep and REM sleep, that just has such an impact on how you feel during the day, but can also just increase the rate of all these different things going on, which can be pretty dangerous. So it's good that, helping those people earlier rather than later is definitely good. Where is your stance with using something CPAP? Like, it's extremely beneficial, but maybe more on the prescription side, like using something like that versus natural solutions. Like, if somebody has a true medical diagnosis, can, some of the natural stuff, holistic things, can that help like up to 70, 80%? Because sometimes people don't want to take medication for the rest of your life. Where do you stand on all that?
Yeah, like I think my dad would say, my dad was the dean of pharmacy, and I would say, like, stay away from all the medicine you can. But I would think because it's kind of altering whatever's going on, and your body should potentially be able to heal itself. But I'm a big fan of everything, right? Like, I think from meditation to eating a normal diet to a healthy diet that's good for you to fitness regimes to all that sort of stuff. But I think in the end, and I really saw it in a couple of patients when it comes in, it's like, well, I'm gonna lose some weight first, and then I'm gonna work on my sleep, or I'm gonna eat better first, and then I'm gonna work on my sleep. And in the end, if I wasn't a lot of customer facing, but it's just like, no, you're not. Like, you need to anchor all of this with your sleep first. Because you're not getting like you said, the REM sleep or the deep sleep or the recovery sleep. And then you'll lose weight, maybe just because you're sleeping, actually, because you'll have less cravings during the day, or you'll be more recovered, or you'll be able to think more clearly as it goes. So I always think, like, sleep is the most foundational thing. It's the easiest thing really that we can kind of take care of. And I love the CPAP option because it's just blowing air, of course. And like I said, I've got one of them as well. But man, anything from melatonin to anything that can kind of help you get into those sleep patterns and all the sleep hygiene stuff too as well, right, Riley? Like
Yeah.
Like don't have your phone in your room.
Yeah.
Start there.
Huge. Yeah.
Right. Well, the screen time thing. So I think there's different levels and layers to it. But to me, when I read Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep, and he basically said, if you're not sleeping, you're dying. So like that's the bottom line. So get your sleep, right? And when the Alzheimer's Association came out and said the number one risk factor for Alzheimer's is sleep, like that's just the bottom line, right?
It can be scary stuff for some people. And just diving into some of the biology, like when you get that proper REM sleep, you have those garbage truck cleaners that kind of come in and clean up all the plaque inside of your brain. But if you don't have that, imagine multiplying that over days, weeks, months, and years. It could be some pretty devastating stuff. And they show some of those plaques is ultimately what can lead to some of those Alzheimer's, but just pretty much everything inside of your body. I think, you really hit the nail on the head there. And, it's interesting. There's all these different modalities, and you can use things, I think, as like relief care and as like, relief care, like an acute phase to try and kind of get you whatever pain you're in. But while you're doing that, you can work in the background of all these natural things. And then eventually maybe you can get off the prescription drugs if you need to, obviously with your doctor's advisory, or the CPAP machine. I've seen that sometimes with people, especially when they start to lose weight and you bring that inflammation down sometimes, but it's, it's case by case for sure. Why do you think people don't sleep well? Maybe not as much in like a sleep apnea state, but just high performers, maybe CEOs. Is it psychological? Are they pushing themselves too hard? Is it too much coffee? Where do you think that all happens?
Yeah, great question. Because I spent a lot of time as leadership development coach, and I'm back executive coaching again now. Nice. And so I've spent a lot of time with high performing business leaders. And I will tell you the number one thing is they don't prioritize it. So sleep is not a priority. It's the classic, like I got to get a lot of stuff done and I'll put sleep on the back burner. Yeah. So this is number one. And then I think number two is just a lot of those lifestyle things, right? Like even in my personal training days, like A players are like driven to kind of perform and to succeed. And if I can get one more page in of Michael Goldsmith's or Marshall Goldsmith's last book in before I get to bed, or if I can finish that report before I'm done, or if I can, do that workout just before I kind of complete, then I'm good, right? And I'll take sleep when I can get it, kind of thing. And I think that's what happens. But you're right. I think then what happens is you even talk about caffeine and just people not even understanding the half-life of caffeine. And like if you do have a cup of coffee at 2, it's still going to affect you at 10 p.m. at night. So I think it's prioritization for me. And then more of a knowledge, like how important is it? Like, is it really that important? And I guess that's what priorities are, right? Like do you place importance on it? I will tell you, the people I deal with, the high performers and like athletes it's such a different breed now, right? Than when it was 30 years ago. Like sleep is obviously important. All the whoops, like I have an Oura ring, like it's just telling you what your readiness score is and when you're ready to go. And I think a lot of CEOs and business owners now are using those sort of things and taking importance in it. I'm not sure 100% they know what it means. All the data that kind of flows off it.
There's a lot,
but there's a lot of data. But I think that's part of us and people like you to start educating people on here it is. Here's why it's important. Here's what you should do, and here's how you should do it. Right?
Yeah, completely right. And it's interesting working with a lot of people how, when you have the tools to give you the awareness around sleep, it makes your job as a coach sometimes a little bit easier, because opposed to you just telling them, they can see the numbers themselves, and it becomes sort of this game like, oh, let's see what I can improve my Oura Ring sleep score tonight. Can I bring it from 75 to an 85? And you'll slowly start seeing that go up. So it's not just in their head. So I think it makes it a little bit easier. But I think psychologically too, like how do people think about sleep? Do they see sleep as this thing that's a liability, where it's at the end of the list, where it's just this thing, we close our eyes, we open our eyes. And if we sleep more, then that's less time we have to be conscious and get more work done. But if we can actually prioritize sleep, the hours that we're awake, we can actually be more high functioning. So I've even seen like somebody finish an 8-hour workday in like 5 or 6 hours, because that deep flow and focus is so much more. And that's more money in your business, a better leader, better relationships, better parent, better spouse, everything that goes along with it, however they want to in their life. But even on an organizational level, just improving, productivity, reducing healthcare costs and everything else. But like you said, I think more people are, compared to 30 years ago, there's just more awareness around it, and it's slowly through these conversations can really start helping people move like that in the right direction. So yeah, I think what you said was definitely bang on. How would you, how do I say this? When somebody doesn't know if they have an actual medical condition like sleep apnea or some of these other things, or if they're just having poor sleep quality, I'm sure they could have a whistleblower or something else, but is there any signs that you guys saw besides doing a sleep study when it could be potentially more serious?
That's a good question. I think there's to me is once like health kind of deteriorates, right? There's
Yeah.
that sort of piece. And the unfortunate thing about most like CPAP providers is you get a referral from a doctor once somebody has hypertension or high blood pressure or something that probably their sleep could have prevented in the
Yeah.
in the beginning. But I do really think that like people started when you come a little bit more aware, and you mentioned this productivity thing of just this, like you can't get everything done during the day because you're kind of tired, or fogginess was a
Yeah.
common term of like almost like feel like you're hungover or something
Yeah.
during the day, and it just never kind of goes away. You don't feel like you can ever catch up.
Got
I
it.
think that's one of the more common
Yeah.
kind of pieces where someone's like, I just don't feel right. Like there's
Yeah.
something there, and I don't know if it's my sleep, but let's check that kind of first.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I was hoping it was going, and I think it is too. Is people kind of self-diagnosing, going, okay, I might have a problem here. Why don't I get my sleep tested just to see what if there is something going on there or not, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's once you have that general awareness of sort of what's going on, then because a lot of these things, I think when you're so used to your old normal, you don't know, if you've been tired your whole life, you just kind of make that as part of your identity. But if you think like this is not normal and there's something that I should actually do about this, that's when you can go and get those tests done and start improving your health and taking health into your own hands, if that's what it comes down to. What would you say, like practical wise, any top tips you would say to people, driven leaders, to improve their sleep who find themselves busy?
Yeah, for sure. I think number one from a hygiene thing, and I mentioned it before, is the phone thing. Like there's so much research now, like put your phone down an hour before you go to bed, or stay off the screen an hour before you go to bed. Like the amount of research that goes into that now, and how that affects your sleep and the onset of your sleep, and then just the performance of your sleep.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big ones. I think people might not look at the environment of their bedroom as much too. So like it's got to be cooler than it is in your normal house during the day. Like that's a great play. Our body temperature drops when we're sleeping, so we want it to be able to drop. So it's like the temperature of your room, the darkness of your room, those different pieces that just set you up for sleep. Like if you're a high performing executive or athletes, like you're going to buy the right gear to make sure you're doing it. You're going to have your office set up perfectly so the window's on the right side. Like the bedroom and the place where you sleep is a place that needs to be kind of set up properly to perform. So I think we got a lot of, I think, from people who are just the sleep hygiene. I think that's what it's still called. I think it's still a weird word, like brush your teeth before you go to bed, I guess, but I always interpreted it. But set up for that sort of piece. And I think the caffeine's a big one for me. I think recently, and alcohol too. I don't think like a lot of people understand how that affects their sleep as well too. And so just kind of understanding the effect of that and kind of prepping yourself for a good night's sleep. It takes some work. It takes some thoughtfulness, right, to be able to get into that zone.
Yeah, totally. And the good thing about it is you just have to set up your sleep environment once, and then you're sort of good to go. You make your bedroom environment dark, keep the temperature cool. And it's things that are a little easier opposed to going to the gym, pushing yourself, or like trying this completely new diet with 3 cups of this, 3 teaspoons of this. You really just have to adjust these small things. And I think, Pareto's principle, you get 80% of the results, 20% of the work. I think that's just one of them there. So I think that's really good. And also what you said about caffeine, just wanted to touch on quickly. And Matthew Walker says so many good things about sleep. One of the things he mentioned inside of there was, if you get a poor sleep on Thursday night, even if you slept well on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, when Monday comes around, you still wouldn't be fully recharged. So it's not like a sleep debt thing where you can make it back. So it just kind of goes to show, with sort of that detrimental night. He also mentioned with caffeine, caffeine, like you said, has a half-life. I think it's about 7 hours. So if you drink like a cup of coffee, let's say 3 p.m., that would be equivalent to going to Starbucks. Let's say you go to bed at 10 p.m., you go to Starbucks at 9 p.m., order a quarter shot of espresso, chug it back, and then go right to bed and hope to fall asleep. That's how much caffeine would still be going through your veins. So it's no wonder, especially if you were a slow metabolizer of caffeine opposed to a faster one, that's where you could probably run into some issues too. Like I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff. I'm not sure where you stand, but if I have one, 11 a.m., I'm still pretty wired by, 7, 8, 9 p.m. So I can go through coffee pretty cheaply.
It's funny. I've been so aware of it lately that I've actually switched to like trying different mushroom teas and that sort of stuff in the morning, which don't have any caffeine, right? Like I'm like, do I really need caffeine in my day? Like it seems like one of these things that you can be addicted to as well. But I'm like, if it is, it's like I end it by like 9 a.m. because I don't even want to risk it, right?
Exactly. That's just it. Another good, like what you mentioned about the mushroom stuff is really good. Four Sigmatic, I think, is a brand that's really good. You kind of get those packets, you can put it into hot water, and it's got a lot of cool properties. But yeah, completely agree with that. Awesome stuff, Ryan. Any last words of wisdom before we close off things today?
I think it's the importance of sleep, which you're doing, and you're kind of bringing this up. And I think from go back to that point of that prioritizing, right? Like it's something that we spend a lot of time doing, but don't think about it a lot, right? And you won't realize it. I would tell this to people, like you don't realize the effect of good sleep. I love what you just said earlier about you just kind of get through your day, right? Like because that's your normal, but you can get a new normal pretty quickly. And I've seen so many people either easily lose weight and keep it off, or perform better in the gym, or be more productive. All the pieces that you said just by focusing on some of those sleep hygiene tips and prioritizing sleep is one of the main principles in their life, right?
Yeah. Amazing. Love everything you said. I learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners did as well. If people would like to learn more about you, what you're doing now, where can they visit?
Oh, good question. I guess LinkedIn is where to find me right now. I'm just in the middle of launching my executive coaching business in January. So
nice.
Yeah, LinkedIn at Ryan Hindmarsh, whatever those are.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll put that all down in the show notes below. All right, guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to learn more about how sleep can benefit your personal and business life, visit thesleepconsultant.com. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Sleep Experience podcast. We'll see you next time on next week's episode. Be sure to subscribe and follow us to get future updates on everything sleep, energy, focus, stress, and better performance.